I am the author of children's book, Girls Who Build. I wrote it to inspire more girls to join the construction industry. My name is Marisa Richards. I'm 35 years old. I work for Painters District Council 30, a union labor organization. I always loved to read as a child, but I first set my sights on writing a book about 15 years ago when I was studying creative writing and gender and women's studies at the University of Illinois. I knew that I wanted to highlight a female lead in my story, but I envisioned writing a young adult novel, very similar to the types of books that I was reading at that age. Today, flash forward, and most of my nights are spent reading children's books to my two girls. So it's really fitting that my career as an author is beginning with children's fiction. And the fact that I'm, highlighting gender equity and female empowerment is just icing on the cake. In 2021, I first came up with the idea for the story, a story that would introduce young readers to construction jobs, but showing girls doing the work. It's a simple concept, but it's really near and dear to my heart because it perfectly combines three driving forces in my life: my family, my education, and my career. 15 years ago, when I received my degree, I was focusing on writing and gender and women's studies. And since that time, I've worked for a union labor organization. We work to recruit the next generation of trades workers, and we're continually identifying ways to diversify our membership. Specifically, I've worked on teams that are working on strategies that encourage women to join our trades. Flash forward in 2017, I became a mom, and now I'm the mother of two young girls. I really wanted to introduce them to books about construction because of my career. But when I began searching for those books, I couldn't find anything that included girls. I realized at that time that, there was a need for female representation in the children's career book market, especially involving construction. So I decided to try to write it myself. Working in construction doesn't just provide a job, it provides a career. But right now, only 3 to 5% of trades workers are women. These are family-sustaining careers, and women deserve equal access to them. Women can do the work, and they should be able to enjoy all of the benefits that come along with it. Often the health insurance, very lucrative wages, sometimes pensions. Now there's certain trades that are even launching maternity leave benefits to encourage women to join the trades as well. The trades are also a place where there's little to no wage gap, especially on the union side of things. Wages are guaranteed based on hours worked, and there's contracts that make sure everyone receives the same pay. I really just believe that women shouldn't be forced to work multiple middle wage jobs to support their family. They deserve to be able to work hard and enjoy equal pay for equal days work. I think I started with construction just because of my job. We train apprentices, we're training the next generation of workers in our field. We're focused on painters, drywall finishers, and glazers. But, over my 10 to 12 years in the industry, I've met people throughout the building trades, and I've even gone to conferences that are focused on female construction trades workers. And it's empowering. These women, they're fighting a system and they're trying to prove their worth every day, and they're often the only female on a job, and, they're killing it. And more women need to know about these opportunities. At the local level, we're constantly trying to figure out how we can bring more women to these jobs. And that's why, we've launched things like maternity leave benefits and specific promotional materials, directed at women. I firmly believe that women belong here just as much as men, and I would be happy to look at other industries where they're male dominated and try to bring stories to light in children's books there as well, because it's definitely needed. I think it's really important that we communicate the opportunities in construction early on, especially with high school students, so that they consider construction trades or apprenticeships when they're looking at career options. And then we also need to expand the conversation to include middle school students to make sure that females are invited to participate in all the career fairs and the trade expos that are put together to highlight construction work and apprenticeships. I have always been a firm believer that conversations about representation and diversity need to start so much earlier, when girls are really learning about their place in society. And that's often, before they're 8 years old. I do think children's books have become much more inclusive and empowering over the last few years. There are now so many books teaching girls about female trailblazers like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and opportunities to be astronauts and scientists and architects or engineers. My story's trying to teach girls that they can also have successful careers in construction. As a mom, it's important to me that we're teaching our daughters to be strong, to speak their minds, and to really know their worth. My husband and I regularly introduce them to strong female characters, and we encourage them to ignore and even defy gender stereotypes. There are definitely a lot of stories about princesses and beauty on the market, and generally that's okay. You know, our girls read them, they dress in tutus most days, and they love playing with my makeup. But they also read books about dinosaurs, and they play with cars and trains. And we stress that makeup is worn to boost confidence, not beauty. It's all about providing an equal balance. And we definitely need to make sure that there is a balance in the market so that children have the option to see both sides of things. And we really just want to make sure that, you know, we're not defining their worth on their looks as females. I think stories were very different. You know, I was a girly girl, so I enjoyed a lot of the princess stuff. But the second that I started really delving into gender and women's studies in my education, it kind of sparked the light bulb to me that, you know, we shouldn't be starting these conversations in this enlightenment period in our 20s. We need to start, you know, believing in ourselves as girls when we're children. And a lot of that comes from, you know, the stories we read and the movies we watch, and we've come a long way in the 30 years since then, and there's a lot more stories. And I just hope that we continue to see that trend. Careers are not gender specific. And now more than ever, we shouldn't define our children based on their gender. So it's important to teach girls that, you know, they're allowed to get dirty. They can, you know, want to work with their hands and be part of construction or any industry that they're interested in. Specifically with construction, you know, women can do these jobs, and girls need to learn that earlier before society tells them that they can't. I'm thoroughly enjoying the rush of launching this first book. I definitely hope to write more books for all children related to construction, and also more books inspiring young girls. I'll probably delve into other genres as my girls get older as well. But for right now, I'm just soaking in all the positive response that this first book has generated. I really want women to know that they're capable of anything and that their gender does not define their options in life. You know, I believe girls can do anything, and hopefully this book helps to prove that. My hope is to inspire our next generation of young girls so that they not only begin to learn about construction at a younger age, but they also believe that there's a place for them within this industry. I was really lucky to be inspired by so many strong female characters throughout my childhood, as well as the real life female heroes that blazed the trail for women like me. And it would be an honor of a lifetime to inspire just one young girl through the pages of my story.